Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Before we begin, we would like to take time to acknowledge and honor the land that we're on, which is on Northern Arapaho land and like other indigenous lands. So we're gonna do a pause. Thank you. Okay, so at Colorado Circles for Change, we center youth most impacted by inequities rooted in like white supremacy, specifically interpersonal and institutional racism, including the cradle to prison pipeline and mass incarceration. Through these practicas, we aim to dismantle racism, heal the people, and guide the youth. And today, our guests are from Daughters Beyond Incarceration, and we're here to talk about the impacts of incarceration of families. And we're so grateful that they've taken the time to join us today. So before we dive into our questions, I'd like to start with doing conocimiento and asking each of our guests to share their full name with us, their maternal lineage, and where they're from. I'll model that for us to start. So my name is Lacey Linnell Wynn. My mother's name is Dion Wynn. My grandmother's name is Phyllis Wynn. And they were born in Denver, Colorado, but I was born in Chicago, Illinois. So now I will pass it on to Maya.
Hello, my name is Maya Padilla. My mother's name is Nikki White. My grandmother's name is Teresa Hanway. And both my grandmother and my mother are from the Wind River Reservation in Wyoming, but I'm both from Denver and Wind River. And I will pass it to Casey.
Hi everyone, my name is Casey Thornton. My mother's name is Stacy Thornton. My grandmother's name is Harriet Thornton, and we all three of us are from New Orleans, Louisiana. Pass it to Trinaya.
Hi, my name is Trinaya Hankton. My mother's name is Jamise Van Buren. My grandmother's name is Sylvia Smith. My grandmother and my mother was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I was born in Houston, Texas. Thank you to Aaliyah.
My name is Leah Allen. My grandmother's name is Carmen Franklin, and my mother's name is Natalie Allen, and we all were born in New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm going to pass it to Ashley, I believe. Or I think that's it.
That'll be all. We're gonna jump into the questions. And for our first question, I was wondering how do you think intergenerational incarceration affect people specifically? Like, how do you think that impacts them like mentally and just like them like in their lives?
I feel
Oh,
like
and I will ask Aaliyah.
I feel like it affects people. Well, I know for one, it affects me and my family. My mother is a mother of three, so she have three little girls. And growing up, I always tend to just wish that she would be home in time for me to graduate. So I always had this question of thinking about, oh, when is my mother coming home? When does my mother come home? And sometimes as the older sister, you have to really watch what you say around your younger sisters because it starts to really like they understand it. And then now they're rooted into understanding, hey, my mother's not coming home, around this time or this time. So then my middle sister start to pass it down. And then my younger sister start to say it. And then you just kind of lose hope. So that's really just how it continues to be a cycle if like we constantly dwell on the time that our parents are away and around our siblings and stuff like that. So that's one of the things.
Thank you, Leah. There's a lot of truth in that. Like I am also the oldest in my family and I have like three siblings. And I understand that it can be very difficult trying not to like seem so defeated or like being careful what you say around them because you don't want them to have that mindset because they are like the future and just like setting an example. So I 100% agree with you on that. Casey, what do you think?
I think I agree with Aaliyah, like the timing, Cause like growing up, I would always ask, but I would never ask my dad when he coming home because I always felt like it was disrespectful because I always thought it was like embarrassing for him to be in there. But like since I joined DBI, it's not embarrassing for me because I have hope that he gonna come home one day. But it's just like him missing out on a lot. Like my graduation that I just had Tuesday, he missed out on that. Birthdays, holidays, like a lot of stuff. It's just like I'm missing a piece, and like he the piece I'm missing. And then it's just like his absences. It's just like he can't be here just on a regular day. We can't just go on a date. I see everybody else with both their parents. And like sometimes I just be like, dang, I wish that was me. But I'm also happy for others. But it's really sad also.
I find that very relatable too, and I agree. It's a balance of like keeping your head up, but also kind of wishing you had that. Janaya, what do you think?
I think I agree with Aaliyah and Casey also, because it's hard for my sister and I to see other people with their fathers and things, and we can't see. I mean, we can't see our father. Like Father's Day coming up, and our dad is incarcerated, and we're not gonna be able to spend time with him for Father's Day. And just recently, my sister had her promotional exercise, and she was upset because our dad wasn't there to see her transfer from 8th grade to high school. And I think that is just very hard for us to cope with that, like that situation.
Thank you. You all had some very powerful answers. For our second question, why are people who are incarcerated, why are they dehumanized? Like, how does that impact their families or loved ones? Why are they treated like so badly?
I feel
And
like,
go ahead.
Oh, you sure you can go if you want?
No, go ahead.
I feel like what Casey was saying when she was like, sometimes like she would feel embarrassed about it because, like I never really thought about, how I would respond to people when they asked me where my parents were. So when I did, it just seems as if it was embarrassing. But I feel like people dehumanize them because it's like when people see criminals, they don't see why you're in there. They just see, oh, you're in jail, so you're a criminal. You did something horrible. Like you're this nasty, evil person. And sometimes like our parents, they're in jail because whether they're protecting themselves, whether that they let their emotions get the best of them, or other situations. So not time is it don't have to always be like you're a monster, you're a serial killer, you're this. It's like a moment. It can take one moment to get you off track, and people will really stick that moment with you and be like, wow, you're an evil person because that one moment. But they will forget everything that you have done in your life that has been great. So I feel like people really have this idea of just dehumanizing everyone that's incarcerated, making them feel as if, they're just these evil people because like, incarceration is not a good thing when you hear incarceration, and I feel like a lot of great things come from incarceration. Some people go there, they learn, and people just kind of be ignorant towards the fact that there are plenty more reasons and ideals behind, being behind bars or being locked up. So that's definitely one of the things that people should take into consideration.
Thank you. Once again, that's very powerful and that should be taken into consideration. Tronaya, what about you?
I think that people put the people that's in prison down because they don't want to accept them back into society as a normal person because they're incarcerated or either they've been incarcerated.
Thank you. Casey, what about you?
I 100% agree with Aaliyah. I feel like I just want to add that some people that do make a mistake, or even if it was out of anger or like and they do go to jail for however long, and then if they do get out, or they don't. It's just like some people in there, they have talent and they really amazing people before they made their mistake. Like I know a lot of people who is in prison and they could draw, they could write, like they have so much talent. And then when they get out, it's probably hard for them to even get a job because they've been incarcerated. Some people don't even want that person around their family because they've been incarcerated, and it probably was just from one mistake that they did and their whole life was taken away from them. So I feel like, in my opinion, you shouldn't just say, oh, you was incarcerated before and just run off of that. You should really get to know the person. And if not, then I really feel like you're just a selfish person if you can't just get to know the person for who they is and just hide the fact that they was just, not even hide it, but just don't hold that against them for the rest of their life just because they was incarcerated, because you never know their situation.
Honestly, putting yourself in other people's shoes is very key in life, just like with relationships and all. Maya, I'm gonna pass the questions on to you.
Thank you, Lacey. So for our next question, our hope at CCFC is that all prisons will be abolished one day. However, we know that we have a long way to go until that happens. But keeping that in mind, what do y'all think will be the substitute of ending prisons in the meantime? And whoever just wants to jump in.
I feel like,
No,
I
go
feel
ahead.
in my opinion, I feel like they should have more programs like Daughters Beyond Incarceration, and not even just for girls, like for boys too. And then for people, not even just for girls that have fathers in prison, also for people who have mothers in prison, because that, like the same way I feel about my father being incarcerated, another female or male could feel the same way about their mother being incarcerated. Like it's the same thing because they're both parents and they both should matter. And I also feel like they should have, like, some people probably just need a little help or guidance growing up. Like some people that I went to school with didn't even graduate because they didn't even have a family or support system like me. I had DBI to get me through my senior year in high school. So I feel like if they have more programs and like more mentoring and more people that's willing to help and step up, then maybe y'all could stop the crimes that's going on.
I agree. I totally agree with Casey when she talks about like programs, because I feel like the government, the system just puts too much money into these prisons when they could be using it for, parks, mentoring programs. And like she said, like not only just, with girls who have fathers missing, but with mothers. I'm one of the girls that's a part of DBI with my mother is the only one that's in the program that's incarcerated. And it's hard for me because every girl wants their mother. And that's like, someone that you will want to have, and to that person to be taken away from you for a long time. It's just a heartbroken feeling. You have to just really kind of try to get out of that. But I really do feel like they need to fund in more programs for kids. Kids will have more to do than coming home or going like hang out with that on the corner and getting into trouble because it's not their fault. Sometimes the system is put in place to just take us down. And us as Black women and men, we had that taken from us since our birth. We didn't have a say so in what we want and what we do and how we are as people. So now we have the criminalization system is giving us, oh, this is who they are. This is the type of person that they are. This is what they're going to be doing. But I do think that they should put in place more programs, more mentoring programs, more activities for younger kids to get involved. And even when you don't have your parents that are supporting you, like she said, DBI was supporting her. And people need that support. Sometimes, like me, I can be a regular girl, that don't have my father or my mother in my life. And I can either go up or I can go down. But people just assume, oh, everyone, you have a daughter that's incarcerated, she's gonna fail just like you. Like, no, that's not the case. Like, it takes 1 in a million people to be strong enough to overcome that. And DBI is that program that helps kids overcome that. You know what I mean? And if we get enough people like this can change the world. Not even just talking about, oh, no jails. Because, yeah, we got a lot going on. And it's because of the system. And we can't just be like, oh, well, we're just going to not have jails anymore. Because, yeah, the criminalization system is for some good, but it's also have done a lot of bad. But, still in all, it's the small things that can really help. And some people don't know that these things really help. But someone that you don't know telling you, hey, you could do it, I believe in you, is a big push for somebody that don't have their parents in their life. It's a big push. So definitely continuing to advocate and get more programs out there. So yeah, I do agree.
Thank you for those. So for the next question, what effect does it have on mental health, especially during critical times of brain development, like childhood or, going through adolescence?
Can I go? Okay, like for me growing up with my father in prison, it was like, especially in school, I was around more people. And then it was just like, it'll just give me a whole lot of time, not even too much to think, because when I was younger, I really didn't have nobody to tell me, oh, Casey, don't fight and don't be disrespectful. But I would just lash out all the time until I got older and I learned that there's other things that I can do besides being rude or yelling or, just being disrespectful. I could write. Like I started writing, like when I got to like third grade, I started writing in notebooks. I was still fighting and I still had a lot of anger because I really didn't understand and nobody wasn't trying to teach me or tell me or be truthful to the fact that my father was in jail and his time and the reasons why, until I got to high school and I met Miss Dominique and Miss Bree and I joined this organization. That's when I really had people to really like call on and say, this was going on with my daddy, this how I feel. And then I was able to get the next step from them. Like, even if I didn't have no clue what to do, they always found something. Like, so I feel like it really messes with your, like, you have to find ways to cope. And I didn't have that growing up. I always wanted to fight or be disrespectful. So I feel like if you have somebody, or if you could be that somebody to somebody, please, like, do it. Because everybody can't do it on their own, especially if you young, like younger than, I'm 18 now, and I was like 13, 12, 11 going through it because I knew my father just wasn't there. I probably didn't understand why, but at the time I just knew he was missing, his absence, he wasn't there.
I agree. I definitely agree. I feel like I've pushed aside my mother's absence for literally my whole high school career except 12th grade. And I was pushing away for so long. And then I remember going through, you know, finding myself, learning what I like as a girl, and the things that you want to talk to your mom about and you can't, like boys are learning how to do this, or just things that girls and their mothers talked about. Like I didn't have all that. So a lot of things I went head first into. Like being young, I always wanted to separate myself from people. I didn't like talking to people. I didn't like people. I was the sweetest person that it could be, very nice, but I always stayed away because I didn't want to get hurt. It was like every time I go towards someone, they hurt me. And I felt like, dang, if my father not here, my mom not here, why would anybody else want to care about me? Why would anybody else want to be around someone they don't even know? And my own people couldn't be around me. I started to think for a while, like maybe it was my fault my mother was in jail, or maybe it was, I started to fault myself and not really addressing the problem. And I remember taking counseling for it in high school. And I'm a smart girl. I graduated top 20 of my class at Carver. I was very smart. I'm very smart, like on the dean list now at UL. So it's like I'm capable of so much, but it took DBI to help me out that. And I remember taking these counselings and I'm telling this lady, I'm talking to her and I really want to tell her nothing. I'm just like, yeah, this is what's going on. I'm telling her like a problem, but not the real problem. And then graduation, I had a capstone project to do. And this is how God take care of things. I had to write about incarceration. And I was given that. And I had not told anyone about my mother or my problem or nothing. And I was like, wow, I have to present, about this big piece of my life that really changed me and made me who I am. And I remember in the middle of my presentation trying to practice, I just cried and I broke down because I'm like, I don't have my mother. I haven't had my mother. She's gonna miss my graduation. She's gonna miss my first prom, my dance. Like she's gonna miss everything. And it was just so heartbreaking for me. It took me into this place of like, I didn't want to be around no one. I had a time where I didn't even want to talk to my mama. I didn't write her in a good couple of months because I was just so heartbroken that I was passing up my problems and wasn't taking it, head on. I wasn't tackling that. I didn't have no one to tell me, Aaliyah, you might have a problem. Like, you're not coping with things right. And I wasn't coping. I wasn't coping at all. It was horrible for me towards the ending of the school year because I'm trying to pass a class and I'm good with my grades, but it's like I gotta get over this big lump of my life that I've been trying to run from every single time, and it was crazy. So I got it together eventually and I had to present, and we won that year, which is great. I presented and we won, but it was just a big leap of a moment that I had that showed me a lot about myself. I was trying to run from reality and run from this is real. And I didn't understand, like, I miss my mother so much. And it was like, we didn't really have a connection like that because she was gone in and out of jail back to back since I was little. So it was even more harder for me than it was for my sisters because I never got to have that connection and they did. And it was really hurtful for me. And I had to try to get that to her. And I couldn't write her. I couldn't talk to her. I couldn't speak. But I got through it. So I definitely think that it does plays a toll on your mental health. It really does. It messes with how you do things, how you go about things, how you treat people. I didn't want nobody in my life. I didn't want nobody to help me. But at the same time, I did. I was, calling for help silently and didn't know how to do it because I just was trying to ignore everything that I had in me. But I finally let it out, and DB helped me do that. Like I remember breaking down to Bree, like, this is what I'm going through. How do you know? How do you feel this? And it's not even on the basis of just, my mother being in prison, but talking to someone that's like a big sister that goes through things. Like you would talk to your mother and God to open up to her about that. It just helped heal something in me that was just bigger than anything. So yes, it does play a toll on your mental health. And yeah, but I'm better now. So but thank you.
I think that incarceration affects you mentally because um you need someone by your side that can support you and that understand what you are experiencing. You need someone with a positive mindset that can keep you encouraged because you don't want no one that have negativity and they tear you down and they don't understand what you're going through and they don't feel the same thing that you're feeling. So like I feel like DBI is a good I feel like DBI really understands and like you can really go to them and talk to them about anything that you're going through.
And for the next question, I'm gonna pass it over to Lacey.
Okay, so next question. Sorry, I was trying to remember what it is. Why is it important to be aware of the impacts that being institutionalized or having family members that are institutionalized Why is that important? Why do we think, I'm so sorry, I'm having a, we're just curious to know, like, why do you think it's important, like, in general? And like, how do you think like a desegregated Louisiana would look like? Do you think that would like change things? Do you think that make it better? And I'll pass it to Casey.
I don't understand the question. I want to answer it, but I just don't understand the question.
It's cool. It's like, what do you think it would be like if there was like no incarceration in Louisiana? It's like, what do you think it'd be like if there was no prisons, but there were like other ways of dealing like with problems, not just dealing, but like solving problems and like going through healing? Like, how do you think that would look in Louisiana?
Okay, I'm gonna answer it. Okay, honestly, I feel like some people, they do deserve to be incarcerated, but like some situations, I feel like some people shouldn't even be incarcerated. Like that, it could have been prevented before or even after it even happened. Like they could have, how to put this? They could have gave them another consequence in another way. Like maybe some people probably need to be in a mental institute and they probably really need help. But if you just take what they did and not even look into it good enough or just stick them into a jail, they probably could go to jail and kill themselves. Now family losing a person like their life, or they could be sick and the crime that they did wasn't even a real crime, like bad, like they harmed somebody and they probably rot and die in jail. Like you never know. And a family, like a child missing their mother, they father, like just gone, their whole life just gone. Like I feel like it'll be so much better out here, but they just have to not even just throw them in jail all the time. Like they really should really just look at the situation and think about it. Cause I don't think when they incarcerate people, I don't think they think too much of it. They just be like, oh, that was a crime, it's against the law, and you just going to jail. I don't think that's fair to families or the person.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of cases that are just overlooked or like they jump to conclusions and give them bigger problems than they need. That's even necessary. So I agree with you, Casey. Aaliyah, what do you think?
I agree with Casey. I also feel like, you know, just as much as they don't look at the problem, I feel like they create it more. You know, it's the laws stay in place that create a bigger problem. So I do feel like, some people do deserve to be in there. Some, crazy people do deserve to be in there, but it's a generational thing. So it's like, this mindset of a person that made him this way. If they would have had mentor programs, if they would have had, counseling programs or activities, this male that may have murdered someone wouldn't have done it or may have taken action on something if he had things in place. But I also think, there are people that, just happen to make a bad choice because that's who they are. But just as well as um the justice system just placing its laws, like I really feel like it creates a bigger problem. It increases the recidivism rate. Like my mother, she was in jail, got back out, went to jail, got back out. So it's like you're putting these people in jail and they get out of jail. If you're a felon, you can't do much. You can't get a job much. So they're forced to go back to the same habits that they do to make money. So it's kind of hard. It's like you making it hard. It's like, oh, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna make it look like I'm giving you leeway to help you, but I'm really not gonna help you because I know you're gonna mess it up. You know what I mean? And that's just like that's it's just like why even try to help if you know that it won't work. And that's how the system, they have their ways. They will make it look like they're all for you and that they're helping you when really they won't really do much because they know, well, oh, she's gonna be right back here, so we don't gotta worry about that. Literally, my they told that to my mother, "Oh, she's gonna be right here, she don't gotta worry about that." But she's a high school graduate. She finished her high school diploma in college, and like, yeah, she's doing things that the system do not want you to do and won't allow you to do because of the laws that they put in place.
That's awesome. And that's also very true. And these are the things that people don't like to look at or don't like to like observe. So that's why we're having this conversation. Thank you for that. Our next question is, what is the best ways to support the youth who have incarcerated parents? How can they be supported through this tough times? And I'm gonna ask Tranaya.
A person can support you with an incarcerated parent by encouraging them to do their best in school and to have a great future.
Nice. That's also important, trying to like just being there, encouraging. Casey, what about you?
I feel like helping people in schools, like programs, like in organizations like Daughters Beyond Incarceration. About the school thing, like in schools programs for people who have family incarcerated or parents incarcerated. I feel like they should get it in schools more, like programs like Daughters Beyond Incarceration, because when I was in school, they didn't have it. And I actually met Miss Bree and Miss Dominique through someone who knew them. My principal knew them. And that's how I got to know them. But before, I was going to counseling in school and it wasn't helping because I still was going through the same thing. So in school programs, I feel like that will help more. Organizations like this, more activities, just like just more help. Like some people don't even have, even if they do have a family member incarcerated, they probably don't even have no one out in the world that's just trying to help them. And that person that's incarcerated is probably all they have. So just like people in general helping, I feel like that too.
I agree. Sometimes we just need to help one another and just listen. Ali, what do you think?
I agree with Casey, because you do need that extra help, especially in school and stuff. A lot of counselors come there and they feel like, they're gonna help you. Yeah, it's easy for someone to say, "Oh, you got this, you can do it," but going through it is something different. And I know some, people feel like, "Well, why would I be talking to you and you never been not a lick, a lick of thing that I'm going through?" And some kids are like that. Some kids don't want to sit up there and talk to people who got their life handed to them, or everything is all good and dandy, because all you can do is give me encouraging words, which is I can give myself, but sometimes encouraging words ain't enough. Sometimes you got to see struggle and then let it rise. Like DBI and them, they are young women that been through this, that fathers are incarcerated, that family members have been incarcerated. So it's when you see people that come up to you like, "Yeah, I was going through this. It was hard. It's not gonna be easy, but I got you." And now you done made some new friends. You done developed a new family, and just being a part of just meeting people who go through something as you, it just matters more because it helps another problem on a whole nother level.
I just wanted to add, like Aaliyah just said it, but like in schools and stuff, I think the difference is in like other counseling and mentoring and stuff. I think the thing is, the people in my school wasn't going through, they didn't have a parent that was incarcerated. Like my counselors didn't have a parent that was incarcerated, so they didn't know what it was like, how I really felt. But when I met Ms. Dominique and Ms. Bree, it was a different connection because Ms. Dominique's father is incarcerated and Ms. Bree's father has been out of prison. So it's just like they've been through it, so they know what I should do. So it's more comfortable with me going to them than someone who hasn't been through it, because the person who hasn't been through it only could tell me, give me encouraging words, or tell me like, you should do this and you should do this activity to get your mind off it. But Miss Bria and Miss Dominique could tell me how to reach out to my daddy and talk to my daddy. Like, they could just help better and more because they've been through it, and the other person haven't been in my shoes before, so they can't really help as much as Ms. Dominique and Ms. Bree can.
That's also true. And I like that addition because it's also showing like the real side of trying to help people, especially when you've never really experienced what they've gone through. And that kind of leads right into our last question. Like, many people don't understand what it means to have an incarcerated parent, but some are still trying to help, and some want to help youth that are impacted. So how do you think our allies can be educated in supporting the youth in a positive and efficient way? How are we going to like teach them, like, okay, maybe you don't have my experience, but this is how you can help? Like, what are other ways they can do that? Shranaya, would you like to go?
Sure. I think that you need advice from a person that has experience with incarceration, that has personally been affected by incarceration, like that have a family member that's incarcerated already, or have a family member that's been incarcerated before.
Right, like just getting that advice, like letting someone else teach you and show you the reins. Aaliyah, what do you think?
I agree. I just feel like, the more we are willing to open up to people who have been through things, I feel like we can kind of form a unity in a group of people that just have been through having someone that's incarcerated and knowing things, and just trying to explain to people not to be so ignorant about the word incarceration, because some people be like, well, your parent did this, that's what they wanted to do, like, you can't, how you mad at it? Well, I mean, I didn't tell my parent to do that, but it did affect me. I wasn't, you know edging my parent on to do something that they didn't want to do, or that were going to get them in trouble. I don't, necessarily know all the details of that, but I feel like we really need to just kind of have a group of people explain, all the ups and the downs and the loops through and having an incarcerated parent, the jail phone calls, the not being able to visit as much, especially now with COVID, just explain to them those routes and how it affects children, especially at a younger age. I know my sister just turned 13. She can't even see her mother until she's about a year older. Like, it's certain things that you have to kind of explain to people to get them on board with all, because the sad thing to say is people sympathize with the badder things in life, and that's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like we should be able to build on that and then turn it into something great, and people will understand it more. We will advertise more about it, and that's one thing I really like that DBI is doing, and that I see a lot of places that are doing, is advertising people who are products of incarcerated mothers and fathers, which is great. So I feel like if we keep doing what we're doing, the track that we're on right now, for us to be having this Zoom call conference about this, then this is the right track. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that too. It's exactly why we're doing this. Casey, what about you?
I feel like the youth should be in more conversations like this. Like, we should be a part of stuff like this, like the conversation and stuff, because I feel like stuff like this, if I tell, like, say for instance, one of like the people who like even came up with the Zoom call and stuff like that, maybe they don't have a parent that's incarcerated, but they're listening. And then even people that's on the live and that's in here, maybe they don't have a parent that's incarcerated, but they could hear what we're saying, and they probably could feel like dang, if put themselves in our shoes and was like, if that was me, I probably would feel the same way. Or they could just imagine somebody not having, if they do have their parent in it, like maybe they could just imagine, dang, what if my parent was incarcerated and I only got a 15-minute call, or I only could write a letter? What if I couldn't buy stamps? I didn't have money to put on JPay to text? Like, if like people include us in more conversations like this, then I feel like people like they'll be more comfortable because I like doing stuff like this because I want people to hear how I really feel. Because maybe they have somebody that's on this live video who feel exactly the same way I feel, and they have a parent that's incarcerated.
Thank you guys. That was so powerful. And I'm just over here like, yes. That's all our questions. And once again, thank you for answering them. And Maya, I am going to pass it on to you.
Thank you, Lacey, and thank you to everyone and all of your insights today. We hope that this Platica helped to cultivate greater understanding of the impact of incarceration in families. And at TCFC, we like to end and begin everything with a blessing. So I'd just like to say, Kasu Kamati, to everyone for being here tonight and speaking your truth and telling your stories. And I pray that you all have a good night. I'm thankful to be sitting here with everybody. So thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.